This is why insurance rates are sky high in Florida and homeowners are getting crushed under the financial pressure. Every year, premiums go up, companies pull out of the state, and people are left wondering, what's going on? It's frustrating and no one really explains why it's happening. Everyone blames hurricanes, lawsuits, or just the market, but that's not it. I'm gonna tell you the real reason your insurance is out of control. And believe me, it's something you've never even heard of. This one's gonna surprise you. Let's jump in. Most people think that when they buy homeowners insurance, they're completely covered for anything that happens to their house. But that's not exactly how it works. Home insurance isn't a big pile of cash sitting somewhere waiting for you to use it when disaster strikes. Instead, it works like a shared pool of money. Everyone pays into it, and when someone needs to file a claim, the insurance company pulls from that pool to cover the damages. Makes sense, right? And homeowners pay premiums every month or year to keep their policies active. The cost of that premium depends on where you live, how much risk your home has, and what kind of coverage you choose. In Florida, everyone thinks rates are sky high because of hurricanes, but that's not actually the main reason. But don't get me wrong, they're still incredibly high. The average annual cost for homeowners insurance in Florida is approximately $11,759. That's a 7% increase from the previous year. This is substantially higher than the national average of $2,377. But just paying your premium doesn't mean the insurance company is going to automatically cover every disaster. You have to file a claim, and the insurance company sends an adjuster to look at the damage and decide how much they're going to pay, if they pay at all. Remember, insurance companies make money when you pay in, not when they pay out. Policies typically cover fire, theft, and storm damage, but they got limits. One of the biggest exclusions in Florida is flooding. Most homeowners insurance policies won't cover it. So if a storm surge floods your house, you're out of luck unless you have separate flood insurance. Then there's the deductible, which is what you pay out of pocket before insurance kicks in. And a lot of people don't realize that Florida has hurricane deductibles that work differently than regular ones. Instead of a flat fee, it's usually 2 to 5% of your home's value. If your home is worth $400,000, you could be on the hook for $8,000 to $20,000 before the insurance company pays anything. This system works fine when only a few people need to file claims. But when a massive storm rolls through and causes billions in damage, insurance companies don't always have enough money to pay out all the claims. That's where reinsurance comes in. It's basically insurance for insurance companies. Let's say a hurricane hits Florida and causes $1 billion in damage. The insurance company responsible for those policies might only have $500 million available to cover the claims. Without a backup plan, they'd go bankrupt. But since they have reinsurance, the reinsurer steps in and covers the remaining $500 million. This keeps the insurance company afloat and makes sure homeowners still get paid. Reinsurance allows insurance companies to take on more customers and handle bigger disasters than they could on their own. Just like homeowners pay insurance companies a monthly premium, insurance companies pay premiums to reinsurance companies for this extra protection. The problem is, those reinsurance premiums have been going up, sometimes by 50% to 80% in a single year, especially after a big hurricane. When reinsurance costs go up, insurance companies pass those costs down to us, which is why our premiums in Florida keep climbing. Most of the big reinsurance companies aren't even located in Florida. Some of the biggest names providing coverage to Florida insurers are Munich Re, Swiss Re, and Hanover Re, which are based in Germany and Switzerland. There's also companies based out of Bermuda like Arch Capital and Everest Re. And the Re in the company names stands for reinsurance. These companies decide how much risk they're willing to take and how much they'll charge insurance companies for coverage. And because Florida is such a high-risk state for hurricanes, reinsurance is one of the biggest costs for local insurance companies. In some cases, up to 60% of a homeowner's premium goes directly to paying for reinsurance. That means if you're paying $6,000 a year for homeowners insurance, $3,600 of that is just for reinsurance. That's why even if you've never filed a claim, your rates keep going up because your insurance company is paying more just to keep its backup coverage in place. But my biggest question is, if insurance companies have a backup plan, then why do we even need FEMA? You'd think between homeowners insurance and reinsurance, everything would be covered, right? But when back-to-back storms as big as Hurricane Helene and Milton slam into Florida, the damage is way beyond what private insurance companies can handle. That's when FEMA steps in. After Milton tore through the state, FEMA had to cough up over $1 billion to help Florida recover. When Helene hit, nearly 49,000 households needed assistance, and FEMA approved about $142 million to help these families. This isn't just about fixing houses. When a disaster like this happens, entire communities are wrecked. Roads get washed away, power grids go down, schools and hospitals take major damage. After the last storms, FEMA sent out another $44.1 million just to cover emergency repairs to public infrastructure. Without that, whole towns would be struggling to get back on their feet. One of the biggest reasons FEMA is needed is because most homeowners insurance policies don't cover flooding. Even if you have great homeowners insurance, if a storm surge floods your house, you're probably out of luck unless you have flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, which is also run by FEMA. But not everyone has that, and when thousands of people suddenly find out they're not covered, FEMA is the only option left. That's why Florida is making a big change. By January 1st, 2027, Florida insurance will be mandatory for all Citizens Property Insurance policyholders if their policy includes wind coverage, no matter where they live. And that's gonna suck. That means even homeowners who aren't in a high-risk flood zone, like me, are going to have to carry flood insurance. The goal is to reduce reliance on FEMA payouts, but until that happens, FEMA remains the last resort for thousands of Floridians when major storms hit. The problem is, FEMA isn't exactly fast. They're a government agency, which means red tape, paperwork, and a ton of waiting. And when they're ready to work with you, they're going to require all kinds of crazy permits for simple things like replacing flooring and painting. Yeah, painting. Local officials who actually know what their community needs have to sit around and wait for federal approval before they can get anything done. That's why people sometimes wait weeks or even months for real help to arrive. And this is exactly why President Trump wants to get rid of FEMA and change how disaster relief works.
I'll also be signing an executive order to begin the process of fundamentally reforming and overhauling FEMA, or maybe getting rid of FEMA. I think, frankly, FEMA is not good. I think we're going to recommend that FEMA go away.
I personally love Trump's idea of ditching FEMA and letting states handle disaster relief themselves. I mean, why should we wait around for some slow-moving federal agency when Florida could take charge and get things done faster? Trump's plan is pretty straightforward. Instead of funneling disaster relief through FEMA, the federal government would send the funds directly to the states.
The governor takes care of it, meaning the state takes care of it immediately. A problem is something that never worked for me. I'd like to see the states take care of disasters.
That way, local officials who actually know their communities can make quick decisions without all the federal red tape. A federal oversight committee would still be in place to ensure the money is spent properly, but the day-to-day operations would be handled locally. We got the right guy for the job in Governor Ron DeSantis. Give him the funds and let's go. Think about it. When a hurricane hits Florida, who knows our needs better than we do? Why should someone sitting in an office in Washington, D.C. decide how we rebuild? By cutting out FEMA, we could see faster relief efforts and more efficient use of resources. Plus, let's be real, FEMA has had its share of issues. The whole department has become politicized. For example, a FEMA worker was fired after telling her team to skip houses with Trump signs pre-election during disaster relief efforts here in Florida. That's a big deal, especially in our state where most of the houses support Trump. And then there's the money. FEMA also administered payment of $640 million, which indirectly went to illegal aliens and not U.S. citizens. That's unacceptable to me. Of course, this plan isn't in place yet. Trump's got to set up a council to review FEMA's operations. But if this goes through, Florida could handle disaster relief on its own terms, potentially leading to quicker and more effective responses when hurricanes strike. But to tell you the truth, the way things are going, it looks like Florida's insurance market might finally be turning a corner. For the last few years, it felt like every time you checked your mail, your insurance bill jumped again. Companies were leaving, prices were getting crazy, and homeowners were struggling to find coverage. But now, for the first time in a while, there's actually some good news. More insurance companies are coming to Florida, and when there's more competition, prices might actually start going down. 10 new insurance companies have either started selling policies in Florida or announced they're coming soon. That might not sound like a lot, but since so many companies have been leaving, it's really a big deal. One of the new companies, Mangrove Insurance, is actually based in Florida, which is good because local companies understand Florida's risks better than national ones. The state has also been working on new laws to make Florida a better place for insurance companies to do business. That's part of the reason more companies are starting to move in instead of pulling out. The goal is to make things more stable so homeowners don't have to deal with crazy price hikes and policies getting canceled all the time. Because the more insurance companies there are, the harder they have to fight for customers, and that competition can help bring down prices. Now, this isn't going to solve everything overnight, but it's a step in the right direction. If more companies keep moving in, it could mean lower prices, better coverage, and more options for homeowners. Florida still has a long way to go, but for once, there's a little hope that things might start improving. But remember, this is the problem. Reinsurance is the biggest reason insurance costs are so high in Florida. Bringing more insurance companies into the state is a step in the right direction, but it's not enough on its own. When reinsurance makes up 60% of our premiums, we need to start focusing on how to stabilize it, or better yet, bring those costs down. My hope is that politicians aren't just looking at the surface level insurance problem, but are also paying attention to the real issue, the sleeping giant that's crushing our policies, reinsurance. And one of the biggest reasons our premiums are sky high is because Florida has a flooding problem. And every year during the storms, homes and businesses get wiped out. But what if I told you there's a way to stop it all for good? Check out this next video where I'll show you how this will stop all flooding in Florida. In this video, I'm breaking down a proven solution that can save homeowners billions in damages, stop insurance rates from skyrocketing, and finally end the flooding nightmare. Click here and I'll see you there.